Are you carrying pressure that God never asked you to carry? You're doing all the right things. You're planting seeds. You're pouring your heart into work. You're showing up every day, but the results, yeah, it's not what you expected. So what do you do when you're working hard, but you're not seeing the harvest? This is Leading 10. I'm Chris Moore, and today we're talking about one of the hardest and holiest parts of leadership, letting go and trusting God with the outcome. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 6 through 7. I have planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the increase. So then neither is he that planteth anything, neither he that watereth, but God that giveth the increase. Paul is saying you can plant, you can water, you can do everything right, but the outcome, that's God's job. And as a leader, that's hard for us to accept. We like control. We like to measure. We like to know their efforts are paying off. We keep score and we want to win. But God never called us to control the harvest. What he did call us to do was to be faithful in the process. Now look, be honest. We're all about results. How many clients did we book? How much revenue did you make? How many followers did you gain? What's your profit level? And here's the danger. We focus only on the outcome. We forget to honor God in the process. We obsess over what's next and overlook what God is doing right now. So what does this say about us? Well, it says we often measure success by what we can see. The numbers look good, we feel good. The numbers look bad, we feel like a failure. But what if God is working in ways you can't see yet? What if the seeds you planted are still growing beneath the surface? What does this say about God? It tells us that he is the one who brings the increase. He's the one who makes seeds grow. He's the one who knows the perfect timing. You plant, you water, follow the process. He brings the increase. Think about it. What would change in your leadership if you could really trust God with the outcome? What if you could release the pressure to perform and embrace the freedom to just be faithful? You'd work with passion, but without panic. You'd lead with intention, but without striving. Because at the end of the day, it's not about what you produce. It's about who you become in the process. You know, success, true success isn't defined in this life. It's going to be defined in the next. So what's the application for our leadership? We should focus on faithfulness, not just our fruitfulness. Ask yourself, am I measuring my worth by what I can see or by what God is doing? Have I released the outcome to him, or am I still trying to control it? We like to micromanage God, but are we trusting God to bring the increase in his time, not in ours? Because when we trust God with the outcome, we free ourselves. We free ourselves to lead with joy, with peace, and with clarity. So how do we release this control? How do we trust God with the outcome? Well, first, we need to reframe our goals a little bit. Instead of the I need new clients, try I will faithfully reach out to 10 potential clients. Focus on what are the actions. The actions are how we reach the goal. It's the little steps that get there. Pray before you work. Ask God to align your efforts today with his plan, not just with your own. And hopefully you started with his plan. Hopefully you prayed for what his plan was for you, because if we do, we'll be much more successful on the way. We also need to celebrate small wins, not just for the big breakthrough. You know, there's a lot of little seeds that come up along the way, little things that go right, and we need to be just as thankful for those as we are for the big, huge wins. And then also rest in God's timing. Remind yourself today, my job is to plant and water. God's job is to bring the increase. But to do that, it's hard. It is really hard. We have to surrender daily to God's plan and focus on what God's process is that he's led us to. So end this day with this prayer. Say it honestly. God, I did what I could today. The rest is in your hands. Man, that's a short 2 sentence prayer, but how powerful that is. I did what I could today. The rest is in your hands. You're not responsible for the outcome, but what you are responsible for is your obedience. You know, there was a time where I poured months of work into a project. I did everything right. I followed every best practice you could. I prayed about it. I worked, I planned, and everything fell flat. No response, no breakthrough. There was no recognition. And in the middle of my frustration, God had to speak to me and let me know, Chris, you did your part. Now let me do mine. May take some time, but I'm working. This was not the outcome that I wanted, but it was a lesson that I needed. I needed to trust God with the outcome. And now that doesn't mean that you stop working. It just means that you stop worrying. Leave it in God's hands. So here's your challenge. Release one of those outcomes you've been stressing over. And you probably have more than one, but just focus on one. Release one outcome, write it down, pray over it, and hand it back to God. Say it out loud. God, I planted. I have watered this. I have done what you've asked me to do. Now I'm trusting you to bring the increase. Because in truth, we can't control the outcome. You can control your obedience. You can show up. You can stay faithful. You can plant seeds. You can water them with prayer. But the harvest, you really can't manage that because that's God's. It's in God's hands. This is Leading 10. I'm Chris Moore. It's time for us to lead with more faith and trust that God is going to bring the increase even when we can't see it yet. If we're on his path, we'll get to his destination. If this lifted the pressure off your shoulders today, please share it with someone who's been working hard without seeing results. You're probably not the only one. Like and subscribe if you would. It really helps us to get this message out to more people. And remember, those that are struggling, if you are struggling, you need to know that God, he's still working. He's working for your outcome. He is working for your good. You just need to do the things he asks you to do. You'll end up where he wants you to go. I'll see you next time.